Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special treat with us here today. We have Mr. Aaron He. Aaron He is a former banker. He's an entrepreneur and a huge evangelist of Bitcoin. So, Aaron, thank you for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me. So glad to be here. Glad to be the second guest.
Great. So let's just get into it. I'm sure our guests are very interested to hear what you have to tell us. So maybe let's just start off with some very preliminary questions. What is a Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, I think to the general public, from what you have read in the mainstream media, we call it cryptocurrency or a digital currency. So for the majority of people who don't have in-depth understanding of Bitcoin, they just treat it as another form of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, but if I were to elaborate further, Bitcoin in the context of our economy and our history is a nascent form of money, right? In today, right, people say, how can you create money? Only government can create it. But if you look at the history of monetary economics, 5,000 years, 6,000 years ago, how money comes about, right? What was money last time? Seashells, stones, glass beads, right? This is through market forces. Through market forces, the community at those times used those as money. But eventually things evolved, right? Came metals, then copper, gold, silver, and then those are replaced with paper notes, right? And then eventually we created fiat currency, which is backed by nothing, right? So Bitcoin today is a nascent form of currency for the digital age. That's how I'm seeing it, and that's what I would say. That's the general definition I would give of Bitcoin.
So, how exactly does Bitcoin work? There's this talk about blockchain technology, and how does it directly relate to Bitcoin?
Yeah, I digress a bit, right? So in the industry now, a lot of people say blockchain, not Bitcoin, right? So there's a lot of hype about blockchain solving problems, and Bitcoin is just nothing. But for me, it's Bitcoin, not blockchain, right? Blockchain is only there because Bitcoin made it a success. So until today, there is no other success stories of a blockchain. Right? So going back to your question, how Bitcoin works. So the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that, which a lot of people cannot grasp, is decentralized. There is no third party, no one is controlling Bitcoin, right? It's decentralized. There's multiple thousands of nodes that's controlling the network, but not by centralized party. What I mean by centralized party is this: if I were to transfer 10,000 ringgit to you, it has to go through our banks, right? If you were to buy something on Amazon, there is still a centralized party, which is Amazon, right? If you will book something through Airbnb, there is also a centralized party, which is Airbnb. Now, so that means someone in between is able to control the entire process. But in the case of Bitcoin, it doesn't. Bitcoin is not controlled by anyone. It's a decentralized network of money. So no one can censor your transaction. You can send it to anyone, anywhere in the world. Right. So how that's the general understanding of Bitcoin, how it works. But technically is that I think you hear of things like mining, right? What is mining? It's in some ways is comparable to gold mining, in some ways, right? So essentially, when I want to make, if I were to make a transaction of Bitcoin to you, right? The miners in between, they will mine it, they add my transaction into a block, right? And then they add into a chain. That's why hence it's called blockchain. And then this information will be propagated throughout the entire network. So there will be no such thing as double spending in Bitcoin. So no double spending. This is the first time, I would say this is the first time in digitally where you cannot duplicate things. If I send you a photo, you can duplicate it. But in the case of Bitcoin, double spending would not happen if it's mined properly. Yeah, so it's propagated throughout the whole network. Everyone has the same ledger, the same record, right? And I cannot fake my record. Right? So hence it's decentralized. And that's the beauty of it. It's not in the control of anyone.
All right. So just now you mentioned about governments printing money and endless supplies. Now, does this apply the same for Bitcoins? Is there an unlimited supply where people can just keep mining and consuming electricity to mine? Or where's the limitation to this?
Yeah, so in Bitcoin, why people like the believers like us, why we trust why we are willing to put so much of our money into Bitcoin, because number one is scarcity. It's scarce, right? In the history of human, what is truly scarce? The only truly scarce item in our life is time. right? Everyone has 24 hours, regardless of your gender, race, or whatsoever, right? People say gold is scarce. Not probably true. Given the technology today, what we can mine for gold is probably limited. But it has been proven that asteroids has gold, right? People think it's so far-fetched away that we can mine asteroid one day. Well, it's not that far. Look at what Elon Musk has done. Right? So in the case of Bitcoin, there is only 21 million Bitcoin in the entire supply. No more, no less, right? And I mentioned earlier, it is through mining Bitcoin is created, right? So currently, every 10 minutes, 12.5 Bitcoin is created. And every 4 years, this will reduce by half, right? So this is a disinflationary supply. Unlike our fiat money being money that we're using now, our ringgit, our Japanese yen, our US dollars. And whenever those white-haired old men want to print money, they will just print money, right? They'll give all kinds of reasons. In the case of Bitcoin, this 21 million supplies is immutable. Not that it can't be changed, it can be changed, but because it's a decentralized network, it's required the consensus of the entire network. Basically, you need the entire participants to agree on changing this rule. Right? If you don't get agreement of the entire network, it's really, really hard to change this 21 million cap.
All right. And there are some other items linked to blockchain technology out there, namely Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV. What are those and how are they related to Bitcoin?
Right. So before I touch on Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, there are many other coins outside, right? So the one of the big ones is called Ethereum. Like in the case of Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV, as I mentioned earlier, right, how things fork out. So Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Cash, for example, are a fork version of the original Bitcoin, because like Bitcoin Cash, it forked out in 2017 due to the civil war that I mentioned. They weren't agreeable on the block size, hence they forked. So they created another version of Bitcoin. So there are plenty of them. You only mentioned two only. I think there's another one called Bitcoin Gold and Bitcoin plenty. But what the one and only truly Bitcoin that will ever hold its value, in my opinion, until the future, is Bitcoin Core, CORE. Yeah.
Okay. So, Aaron, so Bitcoin today is being called the digital version of gold. Now, why is this the case? Something so digital like Bitcoin being compared to something tangible like gold.
Yeah. So if you let's set aside the tangibility, right? One can be held in your hands, one can't be held in your hand. But if you were to bring out to highlight the characteristics of gold, right? What gives it value, right? Bitcoin shares the same set of characteristics. So I'll share some characteristics. These characteristics of gold is also applies to money. Right? So things like these are a couple of core characteristics. Durability, right? Gold lasts for thousands of years. It's chemically innate, right? Portability, how you can transfer it. Fungibility, that means 1 gram of gold is of the same value as a kilo of gold, proportionally, right? Verifiability, it has to be able to be verified. Divisibility, right? You can take a kilo of gold and you can break it down and it still maintains value. And the most important of all is scarcity, right? So gold has all of these features. Bitcoin also has all these features. So hence, that's why in the community in the early days, they compare Bitcoin to digital gold. They call Bitcoin a digital gold. But maybe it's a bit far-fetched to say, it's an exaggeration to say that something which is created out of nothing can become gold. But put that aside, there are many aspects of, although Bitcoin and gold share a couple of the same characteristics, Bitcoin is superior than gold in two aspects. Number one is verifiability, right? Everyone loves gold. We like to hold gold, but we do not know the gold that you're going to hold today, whether there's tungsten inside. Because tungsten weighs nearly the same, has some chemical properties as gold, so they put tungsten in the middle of a gold bar, and it's easy to deceive someone, a counterfeit gold. So there are actually a lot of fake gold circulating in the market now, in the private market. So in order to verify gold, right, you have to melt the damn thing, man, which is costly, right? So that's verifiability, number one. Whereas for Bitcoin, if your miners and nodes don't verify your Bitcoin, or you're trying to be funny with the rules, you immediately get rejected from the network. Okay, so that's verifiability is so much more easy to verify. Portability, how do you transfer? Right, central banks, they do settlement in one another. We go right. So in those days during the war times, right, a lot of central banks keep their gold in the Federal Reserve of the States, but to bring it back, it's a pain in the ass. So what happened is, in the case of Germany, they store their gold in US. They wanted to take it back. I think it was only 800 tons, if I'm not mistaken. 800 tons in the grand scheme is not a lot. It took them 3 years and $5 million, right, in total to bring back 8 tons of gold, 800 tons of gold. Bitcoin, I want to do settlement. Well, so long I have my private key, I have my private key correctly, I can send you $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion. I can settle with you immediately, right, within 10 minutes. Right. So if you were to extrapolate in the future, right, it goes to show that probably one day, I think it's likely that central banks will have Bitcoin as part of their reserves to use as settlement with other central banks in the world.
All right. So we actually wrap up the first part of Bitcoins. Let's follow up with the second part,